Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. And today with AAFCA Roundtables, we're talking to one of AAFCA's favorite, all-time favorite couples, Samuel L. Jackson and his lovely wife, LaTanya Jackson. Two people who have been very important to my career. When I launched my 20-plus-year-old syndicated column, The Robertson Treatment, my very first interview was with Sam Jackson for Eve's Bayou. And LaTanya, his wife, has been a constant source of support and inspiration to me throughout most of my career. So we are very thrilled to support their EPIX series, Enslaved. Without further ado, we're going to introduce you to our membership on with us today, starting with Reginald Pounder, the real critic in Chicago, Emmanuel Noisette, also in Chicago, Katia Woods in Philadelphia,
wow.
Brandon Collins in New York, Albert McGee in South Florida, Carolyn Hinds across the border in Toronto, and Ruben Rigaud in Miami. I'm going to sign off, but I'll be back on when we wrap things up.
Hello, all.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, you guys. I'm Reggie Pounder, the real critic out of Chicago. I get the first question. And I agree with Gil that this was really fascinating to watch. And I have like 50 million questions, but I know only can ask one. So I ask you guys to ponder on this, is that we spend our lives trying to get out of the shackles, but yet we still need to have the links. So that juxtaposition between getting away from slavery, but also finding our family and finding where we belong. Can you guys speak to how important that was for you guys?
That just became a factor after, it all came to fruition, when we started to talk about where we were going and what we were going to do, and how Gabon was such a jumping off point. And all of a sudden we realized that my African ancestry went back to a tribe that was in Gabon. And it was wonderful to be able to discover the Benga people and to connect in that particular way. Like you said, we spend a lot of time talking about it and being separated from it and what it all means to be a part of the diaspora and all these other things. But to know that part of what happened here was the separation of families, the cutting of ties, to be able to go back into a group of people that form what my essential DNA is, was a wonderful thing. To be able to look around and see the familiarity in those faces, or in, my physical structure in terms of who those people were. Even though the king was, not, physically like me, there were other guys there who were kings or leaders of different factions of the Benga tribe, that allowed me to understand and feel like I was a part of something that I had, come from something that was really genuine. And the way they welcomed me back into the tribe was very familiar. It felt like family. It felt like people were very proud of this son come home, or a son who had gone out and done something special that allows them to be special also. To give me the name Nieteti, which was kind of easy for me to say, oh, they just named me Star. And then I realized, well, okay, I'm a bright light coming back into, the community, and it means something different to them than, movie star or whatever. But it's good to understand why I like certain things, knowing that they're like a beach tribe. And I love the ocean and water and all that stuff so much, to understand that that's baked into me in a real kind of way. So it's fulfilling. It's a full circle of something that allows me to connect to the motherland in a real and honest way, rather than just saying I am of African ancestry. I can say what I am and how I belong to that.
Wow, thank you very much, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're gonna go dark probably for 1 second because I'm not liking this light. There's a glare. Do we look fuzzy? Hold on. See
Yep.
how much clearer that is?
Y'all look beautiful.
No, well, that was Volney. I didn't set this up.
Yeah, that's better.
Y'all look beautiful. You
That's
guys are
better.
great.
But it was like a haze or something.
Okay.
Sorry. You know, I just think it's important to keep telling this story and to dig the story up for validation of our origins, and for the story, especially now, to be told during this time of great unrest, of our validation of, look, we were forced to immigrate here, and this is what occurred. This is what happened to us. So let's go back and tell the real story.
Thank you for
you.
that. Hello, I am Emmanuel Noisette, or E-Man from E-Man's Movie Reviews out here in Chicago. It is nothing short of a pleasure and an honor to speak to both of you today. So, not to bring the mood down or anything, but after the passing of Chadwick Boseman, I, like many others, started rewatching Black Panther. And I was reminded of Killmonger's famous quote where he said, "Bury me in the ocean with my ancestors who jumped from the ships, because they knew death was better than bondage." And after watching this this documentary, you know, like the connections really started resonating with me. And it was a really powerful quote back then. And I was wondering, how does that resonate with you now, given what you all have explored in this documentary? And what impact are you hoping that this documentary is going to have moving forward? Mr. Jackson, and then Mrs. Jackson, if you can chime in.
Yeah, I'm working on it in my head. Because there is one famous instance that we know that happened with the enslaved people jumping off the ship and drowning themselves rather than being put into servitude. The stories that we're telling aren't about people who willingly jumped off ships. There are tales that we tell at certain points about certain ships where the enslaved people were nailed inside the hold as the ship went down because they were afraid that there was going to be an insurrection of some sort. There are also tales of them taking the enslaved people and just tossing them overboard because they feared that the ship was going to go down because it was too heavy, or they didn't have enough food, or they didn't have enough water. And the stories of those instances become court cases that we've never heard of before, that we talk about in this series, where the people who commissioned those ships tried to sue for damages from the insurance companies because they had the cargo insured. And there were big court cases in the UK at that time that didn't allow those people to collect on those people because they willfully tossed them overboard. You know, it's almost, you know, nobody tried them for murder, but because they weren't people, it was just property, they got tossed overboard. So there's that.
The connection with Chadwick.
Well, you know, Chadwick became part of something that is a watershed moment for us as Black Americans in terms of, you know, a hero that resonated with over generations, and a hero that we needed to make ourselves bigger and feel better about being in a particular place, especially looking at it in terms of what the motherland was and what Wakanda was in that particular film, or represented. That, you know, it's something that we would aspire to, and it's something that said that because we have these great Black minds, they were able to create this particular place that's a better place than any other place on the planet. The people are smarter. They work together. They take care of each other in a specific way that the rest of the world did not do. So that by the time when we got to Endgame or whatever it was, we were looking at it like, why are they fighting in Wakanda? Why can't they go somewhere else?
It was, but you know, it became the story after he passed. For me, I understood. I knew it was big when it was Wakanda because we were all like this. I said, but the idea of them stopping, of Hollywood stopping to do a special for an African-American actor who had passed was different. And I said, why? The money. Because they realized that that's their attachment to Wakanda. Our attachment to Wakanda is some spiritual remnants of what we have always been told about our universities and about what we knew. And it's in our DNA that we know. That's the only reason we still can do medicinal, have medicine that's not with the FDA, because we know how to do it. It's just in us somehow. And I think that telling the story the way it was told and what we got to see, because what a picture is worth 10,000 words, that we were then could validate what we kind of knew in our spirit, those little stories that those of us who've had the benefit of historians and teachers who told us all along where we came from, it made it real to us. But it only made it real to Hollywood because of the dollar. Trust me, they thought Wakanda was cute. But for us, there was something that Chadwick got to be a part of that was different. That was that special space that happened for us in our validation.
And like we know about, somehow Chadwick became the vessel for a lot of knowledge about us as a people, in terms of the kind of human being he was, allowed him to be James Brown, Jackie Robinson, Thurgood, and Black Panther. We don't have a lot of people can do that. I don't know that I could have. So when you go back through his body of work, you see that he compassionately and gently gave us an insight into these different human beings that meant different things in ways that we need them in terms of our growth as a people. And
don't forget now, he finished with the 5 Bloods. So we got to see Spike, sent him with Spike, and something that's coming. The movie that he just finished with he had finished with George Wolfe, which is the August Wilson play Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. We have yet to see that because it's coming.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And it's about time Nick Fury needs to go to Wakanda. Just saying.
I told him that, a long time ago. I was like, how in the world can there be a place like Wakanda and Nick Fury is not there? Nick Fury didn't even just walk cross screen like he was crossing the street. I could have been in the casino when they showed up there. There's all kinds of ways, but
They had no idea it was going to be that, I'm telling you.
And believe me, Don Cheadle said it. Anthony Mackie said it. The regular Black people who were in the Marvel universe already were like, how come we didn't know about, there's no way Nick Fury didn't know about Wakanda. It's just not.
Hi, I'm Carolyn in Toronto for So Here's What's Happened Podcast. Hi, so I'm Bajan, I'm Barbadian. So this project—
You and Anna Horsford.
Pardon?
You and Anna Maria Horsford.
Oh, she's Barbadian.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. Yeah, so when I watched, because I watched the first 3 episodes and half of episode 4, and there were moments that were very emotional for me, because this is a very the history of the transatlantic slave trade is something that I grew up learning in primary school and secondary school. So it's something that I've always been taught. But I love what you did with approaching it from the angle of those who did not make it. And and because we always learn about the ones who made it, right? We learn about what happened to the slaves in Barbados once they made it to Barbados and were sent abroad. And I wanted to ask you about taking it from that perspective, like when you decided we're gonna look at the slaves that were and the captives who were thrown overboard and how their lives were sacrificed for basically nothing. What was the impetus for coming from that particular perspective?
Well, that was not particularly how it was presented to us, but we were just told that, I was told that they had discovered 5 ships that were transporting human beings from Africa that did not make it. And there were 4 of them in the Atlantic and 1 was in the Great Lakes. You didn't get to that one yet because you stopped at episode 4. But
well, they're airing them.
I know, but she said she had more.
No, all we got was up to episode 4. We didn't get the
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But when we started talking about those ships and what happened, and we found the names of them, who commissioned them to go to Africa to get whatever they were going to get, not always just human cargo, but some other things also, spices and things that they had discovered they could get from there. When we started to look into those particular ships, that's when we realized there had been court cases where they tried to reclaim the value of the cargo. And you find out the business of slavery happened because one of the big things that happened was everybody's sugar addiction. When people discovered sugar and they got hooked on sugar, then that's why, you know, only a small percentage of those slaves came to those enslaved people came to the United States, and the majority of them ended up in South America and in the West Indies, because that's where the sugar plantations were. And as we delved into those court cases, we discovered who those people were, how much they were paid for the cargo, those who got paid for them. Sometimes they did not, because there are famous court cases where the insurance companies sued those people and said, well, you nailed them inside the hold, or you tossed them overboard and you should have kept them, blah, blah, blah. So the value of even slaves that didn't make it, people
who didn't make it, who were cargo and merchandise. That's why I said that slave thing, that they weren't slaves.
Yeah, well, right. The business of slavery is bigger than what, you know, people tend to say, well, they got here and then they started selling them. The ones that didn't make it were of value also, and people got paid for them. Or for instance, when they did free the slaves in the UK, the people who owned the slaves got paid.
Yep,
the enslaved people got nothing.
Like the case you mentioned, that's the one with Lauren Mansfield. That's something I learned in secondary school, because it's one of those cases where they try to say, oh, look, the British were so benevolent because it was the lead up to emancipation. And I'm saying in school we were taught straight, like, no, it was basically because slavery started to, the slave trade started to become more troublesome for them. It was all about the dollars and the bills.
Yeah, they never taught us that. See, we didn't get that kind of education over here.
Yeah, we didn't really have a choice when your school is literally across from a plantation. So.
Right.
Hi guys, Katia out of Philadelphia, but my family and I'm Brazilian, and I'm so glad that you incorporated Brazil in the series, because sometimes, for some strange reason, like Carolyn, I as a kid, I was probably grade school, my mother took me from Rio de Janeiro to Niterói to Paquetá. Niterói was the in-between place, and you still have the wooden stumps of where the slaves stood to be sold, and you would go either to Paquetá, which had huge sugar plantations, or you would go to Rio, or you would go to Minas or other parts of Brazil. So I'm really glad that you incorporated. And talk a little bit, because for some strange reason, I don't know why people think that slavery in North America was the only place it happened, and the rest of the world, and you know, for somehow reason, it was more authentic than it was in the rest of the world. Talk about why it's important to incorporate and see that it was a global sin. It wasn't just happening in one part of the world.
Well, I think everybody understands that slavery happened in other places, but people tend not to talk about it or downplay it in a very real kind of way. And when I got to Brazil, and I discovered all the very dark Brazilians, you know, because that's not who we see a lot, except when, what was that first movie about those kids?
City of God,
City of God. All of a sudden it was like, whoa, who was that? What are they doing with those? And where are those kids? And what happened to them after the movie? They put them back. I happened to come to the film festival in Rio one year, and I met all these Black actors, and I started to find out that, oh, wait a minute, they actually put dark makeup on actors and let them work, and the dark actors don't work. But
it's the truth. It's the truth.
Yeah, off the thing. But no, the worldwide phenomenon of slavery it's not gone. I mean, we know.
No, that wasn't a question. It was like, why is it just always focused on in North America? And especially, you know, the United States is huge. So, you know, of course it was going to be huge here, the discussion of it here. And once integration happened and the voice became louder of Negroes and colored people, you got to, I think we just co-opted it because everything needed to be about our journey now. And trying to connect the dots created the diaspora for us, which we've always tried to reach back and reclaim and connect to, but it wasn't.
Yeah, but plus you also got to understand.
No, her question was, why do we always only talk about North America? Because we didn't know about Brazil.
We had a whole war about it. You know, that's another thing. You know,
Kinda.
we had a whole war about you know, owning people, and I don't know that another country did that. That was slave rebellions in other places that we read about and we know about, but we had a whole ass war about it, you know, and people still carry around the representation of it, like we were saying before about that Confederate flag. You know, that's all about, you know, we want slaves, y'all don't want slaves. So we had a big fight about it. So yes, there is a bigger knowledge of what that means, and in terms of
a bigger
the
light.
world. Yeah, and
not so much knowledge, but surely
we make movies. We make movies about stuff. You know, other countries make movies about things that are important to them, and we make movies about slavery. And American Black people are still angry about that. They said we've seen enough of that. I saw that when we posted our Watch Enslaved. People go, oh no, some more slavery. Jesus, when we gonna stop talking about slavery? You know, it's like we can't stop talking about it, because as soon as we stop talking about it, then we become a forgotten people, and we have to be as adamant about what happened to us as the Jews are about, you know, what happened to them. It's part of history. It happened. Human beings do things to each other, and we need to make that known, and we need to make people understand when we say that you continue to treat us a certain way and you tell us that our history is invalid in that particular way, we got to let you know that it's not.
No, but thank you so much, because it is important to show that what was done to us, and I believe your wife said it best, we're the only group of people that did not voluntarily migrate from our point of origin to the rest of the world. So thank you for including other parts of the world.
Hi, Brandon Collins from Media and Popcorn Podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to be speaking to both of you right now. I produce many events and videos with my wife. And I know sometimes it can be incredibly rewarding, and sometimes it makes you question some life decisions. So I would love for you both to speak about what it's like working as a production team on a project that's so deeply personal.
That would be for him, because for me, it was easy. That question would be easy for me because, first of all, while we did this, I was doing a show on Broadway, which is why I was not traveling with him to all of these places, to my regret. But so I'm sending notes and I'm looking at footage and trying to put everything together, questioning everything, while at the same time trying to hopefully instill in the people who were traveling him his safety, because some of it looked pretty precarious to me. And I kept saying, why do you have him out there like that? Do you know how old he is? He can't do all of that. Don't have him climbing up there, blah, 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 blah.
And please don't let him get in the water.
In the water.
Well, yeah.
So the question becomes for him. It's for him because I was good with it because I was away from it and only dealing with footage.
Well, she's invaluable. First of all, this was totally called something else, and she the slaves. She was like they were not slaves until they got here and got bought. They were enslaved, you know. So
no, I told them that slavery was not a sect of people. That's not a race. So stop saying we were slaves. We were not. We were enslaved. It was the crime that was committed against a nation of people who were taken from their own nations and tribes and placed into servitude and slavery. Enslaved. They were enslaved. So I have always fought against people saying, and they come from slaves. I said, I don't even know what that is. We do not come from slaves. We come from a people who were enslaved. So because it takes the onus of the crime off of the people who committed it.
Absolutely.
So I'm not down with that terminology. So much so that the director, Simka Jacobovici, decided, he said, oh, that should be the name of it. And I said, yeah, that's what it should be called, Enslaved.
And that's what it's like working with your wife on a project. Even down to the chains and the fish coming up out of the water. It's like, no, that chain's got to be broken. I fix it. So they sent her
because
different.
Now think about it. If you look at the poster, the fist is coming out of the water, which for me represented Black power and resistance. Why would you have the chain still connected to the water and the boat if there wasn't a bigger story that you want to solicit and tell? So I said, nope, I love the fist, but that chain, you got to break that chain. And at first they broke it at the thing, so it just looked like it was hanging. I said, oh no, I want it broken so that it looks like it shattered it and like it's floating out into the air. And they were like, what? You know, dominant culture, they don't like to be told what to do a lot, but they agreed. I said, because you're telling a story for yourselves and I'm telling a story for our people, we'll get it. I don't care if you don't get it, we'll get it. And it's going to read differently to us. Right. And they went along with it because
they went along with it for North America.
Oh, right. Now that's another story.
A whole nother story.
That's a whole nother story in Europe. They don't want it in Europe.
Want to see that.
They want a picture, which is what they had initially too, was a picture of Sam. I said, this is not a travelogue. I'm too, selfish in that regard to let him tell a story this big without, thinking about myself. So no, his picture is not going on the poster.
So there you have it. That's what happens when we work together. We go out, we shoot stuff, and I do things, and then we put them in front of her, and she can eliminate, she can separate the wheat from the chaff, and that's a very good thing. It's wonderful. And we have a couple other things that, hopefully we will get together and they'll, get put out there also.
Looking forward to seeing that. Thank you so much.
All right.
Hey, this is Al McGee with Your Entertainment Ticket. Boy, this is wonderful and great to talk to you guys. It really is. First question to you, Mr. Jackson, is this. When you got into your tribe and you said you were no longer, are you still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't see you. When the Bingo people anointed you back into the tribe because you were a lost brother, you said you were not angry and you were more happier now. Can you explain that a little bit?
There's a particular thing, that we have been angry for a long time about a lot of different things and how our lives played out or what station people try to assign us in this particular country. So that Africa is one of those places for me that every time I've been to Africa, as soon as I got off the plane and stepped on the ground, I felt lifted. Everything felt, wonderful and great. When you look around, all the billboards have Black people on, and everywhere I look, there's Black people. I have to search to find a white person, and I'm okay with that because that's almost like me growing up in my community in Chattanooga, Tennessee during segregation. That I only encountered white people when I went to town, so it feels very much home for me, no matter what part of Africa that I've been in. Even though I've had different criticisms where people ask you, well, where have you been in Africa? I've been to Egypt, I've been to Morocco, I've been to South Africa, and and they go, oh, you ain't been to real Africa. It's like, what? So being able to get to Gabon and Uganda was, Ghana was awesome. So I feel like I've been to real Africa now. So yes, I was less angry because I was in the midst of this thing that feels like home to me. And like I was saying, when we were out in the rainforest and I would have breaks, I would see things. I was walking at one point and I saw a clothesline and I said, oh, what's that? And I saw some chickens and I followed the road down in there and it was, you know, a group of shacks where people were living. And it felt like me being back in Georgia when I was a kid, walking down a dirt road by myself and seeing chickens, seeing clotheslines, talking to the people that lived down there. And it was so crazy that when I got down there, Shaft was on somebody's TV. So the guy invited me in. He was like, come. And I walked over there. He's like, look. And I looked. I was like, oh, man. So there it is. So I was already a part of what was happening there. But Africa gives me joy when I'm there.
Me too.
It's just that place for me. You know, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, all right. And I love being in the mass of Black people, the life of it all, being in a marketplace with all those people shopping and doing stuff. And a lot of times people don't even look around and see that I'm there. I'm just part of the, you know, Blackness that's going on there, which is awesome.
Right.
And then, you know, there are other times when, I mean, people have seen me sitting in a car 2 blocks away and start yelling my name. It's like, oh my God, I gotta run. But it's a love that happens. You know, it's not them, you know, just, you know, being bizarre and being that, but it's a real, I feel great being in the midst of my people kind of place.
Well, I want to thank
Also,
you very. Oh,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say it's also the first place that we looked when we said, if this man becomes president, where are we going? So, you know, we said, well, let's start looking at some places in Africa because we just have to figure out our family who we can't take all of them with us. How can we get back, you know, to them back and forth? Because of course, I'm sorry, I love South Africa. I said we have to go to SA and then try to figure out how we're going to still deal with our families who are left back here in this country. Because trust, we have thought about it.
Yeah, and we have friends in Ghana who say you got to come here.
You got to come here, right?
Well, thank you very much. And Sam, my ass may be dumb, but I'm no dumb ass.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brown.
Hello guys, my name is Ruben. I was born in the Dominican Republic, and our history with Black people is different. We had slavery, but the history that we had slavery because all our Indian people, they were killed when we were discovered by Christopher Columbus. And then we have Black people to help them with sugarcane and everything. And the history has been different because we have generals, we have presidents, we have like our history. Like that's why many people in the Caribbean, in our countries, don't understand the fight with Black Lives Matter, for example, or for the equal rights. And I don't know if you guys are gonna touch base on in any of the episodes how slavery was implemented and how was evolved in the Caribbean. That's a separate story as slavery and Black people here in America.
I remember.
We did. Did you see the first
Yeah, the first episode, yeah.
So is it in 5? Did they take it out? We did talk about the Caribbean because we even talked about the Maroons and how some, it was in 4?
Yeah, they visited those guys, right?
Yeah,
they visited the whole Maroon community, right?
It's in the 4th episode, but my question is, if you're gonna tell the story, how it's been evolving inside after the slavery was I don't know, eliminated, but because here we're still fighting for rights. In my country, we're not fighting for any for my skin color. Like we're fighting for something else, but here we're still fighting because I'm Black. So I don't know if you're gonna explain something else. So we as a Latin American, we can understand more about this history that Black people have in North America.
I'm not sure I understand the question. You're saying are we going to talk about the history, say, in the DR as opposed?
No, well, it like the history of how we've been struggling with slavery. Like the history, like slavery in America has been different because you guys, like, we're still fighting here. We're still fighting for
we are
rights.
too.
Exactly. But in my country, we are not doing this. So many people go,
They're not doing it.
Oh, they're not.
Exactly, we are not doing this.
Oh.
So that's
not the picture that the media portrays to us. That I was actually reading stories that, you know, that dark Dominicans were being discriminated against by the lighter Dominicans, which always happens in whatever culture. You know, there are dark people and there are light people. The darker people always tend to be discriminated against. You know, it's like in Asia, it's the, you know, Koreans or whoever, or what. Oh, my bad. All right, but anyhow, that tends to happen across the world. That if there are darker people, they are thought to be inferior in some way, or their rights are infringed upon by somebody. So that just seems to be the, I don't know,
I'm still not clear on the question.
Well, the question is,
I think Ruben, are you saying that it's more economic than I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ruben. I think he means it's more like an economic thing in the DR, whereas the people who have a lot are smaller in population, are not trying to help the people who don't have a lot, which are large in population, and that tends to be more people of color. So whereas here we're fighting economics as well as racism, he's saying over there they're fighting not necessarily racism, it's more economics. You know what I mean?
So you know what? I contend that that's a different documentary that you need to be on top of. You need to get somebody interested in that story and start it, because that's what we have to do. It's different from a movie. It's just going and getting the information and filming it.
Shine a light on it.
And shine the light on it. You should be filming that and talking to people who are, tell Zoe Saldana.
I will. I'm gonna send an email.
I'm serious, and if she knows how to call us. But this is something I'd like to see. So is no one working? Are you not like reporting or working on the story on the Dominican Republic and what's happening there?
I did it like many years ago when we had an issue with people outside the city, with Haitians, and I had a conversation with a priest that he was helping Haitian. And he said like something like really strong things about it, but it wasn't because they were Black. It was because they were Haitian.
Exactly.
There was the issue.
So it became tribal.
That's an immigration issue.
Exactly, because I'm Black. I'm Dominican, but I never had the issue of being discriminated in my country because I'm Black. I was discriminated because I was social level like below from rich people, but like. My question was kind of what like Katia says, but also it's politics. Like it's a different view that we have towards Black people here in America. And what I love about the documentary in the four episodes is like you shine a light for people who don't know the story about the slavery and how about the process, the whole thing, the Black Lives Matter example. It's like fighting now. People think it's just something like it's fashionable because it's happening now, but no, it's been years doing the same thing and trying to shine a voice and the episodes shine a light for people like me who don't know things or didn't have the base, the history base the documentary has.
Okay,
and
so
Samuel, LaTanya,
good luck with that, Ruben.
And listen, I encourage you to do something, and bear with us in our story and just ride along.
I will, for sure.
All right, man. Thanks.
KB here. How are you guys?
KB.
Hey.
So I loved what I've seen so far. I love how it fuses kind of your own personal journey with all of the historical context and building. So just tell me, what is the legacy that you hope to leave with this project?
That the history of the enslaved people that were brought from their homelands to everywhere else is a big, long, and as usual, economic story that people, tend not to talk about. that we're able to have someone, you know, as bright as Afua to come in and tell parts of that story, and her connection to it is incredible, you know, when you start thinking about it. And when we're there at the castle and she starts talking about her grandfather, or great-grandfather, it's like, what? So, you know, the legacy touches us in a lot of different ways. And for us to feel specific ways, the way that we react to each other in terms of a lot of things, sometimes when people are talking about what happened and we start to remember that those people didn't come over there in those ships and go in country and just raise a village and chain people up and bring them out. We did that, you know, because we had a history of tribal warfare that led to enslaving people from other tribes, but we allowed those people to integrate into those tribes at a certain point after they've been there to marry, have kids, and have families, until those people showed up and start offering goods for those people that those other people already had enslaved. And that's what happened, that we did that. So sometimes when I'm reading stories about, you know, gangs fighting in Chicago and other places, I just think back to these young men have this tribal thing in them that makes them bond together in a certain kind of way that we need not to break, but to help them understand that, yes, we know that you have a warrior DNA, but you don't have to exercise that on each other, that you can channel that energy into something else and make it, you know, profitable to yourselves and not so dangerous to the people around you. Things like that we can assess what happened to us and help people understand who they are and where they came from and why they feel a certain way. And maybe through all that, we can create a better space for ourselves.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Well, this has been absolutely amazing. Thanks again, Sam and LaTanya, for your time. We're looking forward to seeing the rest of the series, and certainly if there's a second edition and a third edition, we'll be here to support. So on behalf of the world's largest group of Black entertainment critics, we support you. We will continue to uplift you.
Thank you, guys.
We wish you safety as we continue to move through COVID.
All right.
Thank you all. Be safe, be healthy. We love you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.